Welcome to the Fireside Chat today with your host, Peter Snell. We are sponsored by PetraVibe. Full disclosure, that is the company I'm the CEO of. But today, our focus is Ben Buzek. He is a personal friend, an amazing guy. He is a former military special operator. So he's got a lot of experience on that. He's also a born-again disciple of Jesus, and he's also a financial strategist specifically around IBC or infinite banking. And so we are excited to have Ben here today. This whole podcast is really a conversation designed to provide you, the audience, value from people that you wouldn't necessarily ordinarily hear from. These aren't big celebrities, but they're doing deep impact things for people in the world of business, and particularly in this case in financial growth and financial legacy. So Ben, welcome to the podcast, man. We're excited to have you, man.
Peter, thank you for the warm intro. It's great to be here with your brother, and definitely not a celebrity, but I do hang out with cool people. So
this is true. Everybody, Sharon's kind of a micro, isn't he? We hang out with Sharon. So Sharon's
right.
kind of a micro celebrity. I don't know what niche. Do you call him a niche celebrity? Is that what it is?
I don't know. There's a lot of credit to be given there. Sharon's incredible. Just a great person.
No, totally agree. So, well, look, let's dive in. I wanted to start with, and as the audience knows, this is very conversational. We basically are have a structure of really trying to understand what's going on in your story and how that could be of benefit to the folks that are listening. And so I wanted to start really with your story specifically. If you could take us back to a moment in time or maybe a season where your story really took a turn. What happened in your life that made you realize that that there was a different way to look at financial legacy or financial savvy, maybe is probably a better word, to look at how the economics of a person are different. What was the story that really led to that?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with my childhood. I mean, it seems like our parents' generation really wasn't taught anything about money or wealth preservation or how to be good stewards of it, to be completely honest. A lot of credit. And so I grew up in North Carolina, and we didn't have a ton, but we were loved and we had enough to get us by. I learned really early by my own education that you have to work hard and to earn what you want. So I started my first business when I was about 10, mowing lawns, and eventually saved up enough money to buy my riding lawnmower instead of having a push lawnmower,
Nice.
and just kept growing my business. Long story short, you talked about the military. I moved out of my parents' house at 15 and a half, had to provide for myself, working multiple jobs in high school, and then I joined the Army. It was about 2018 when I finally started professionally investing, even though I was still in the military. We all kinds of real estate and syndications.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing in the stock market. That's not where I come from, but we would refer to all the things that I do as alternative investments. Eventually, I found the Wealth Without Wall Street community, learned about IBCs, IBC policies, as you mentioned earlier. I started a land investing business, and all that was coming to fruition and working well. Investments were happening, and most of all of my experience has been self-education and surrounding myself with others that are doing what I want to be doing. I found myself getting into the room with others that were way ahead of the game than
Right.
myself, and I felt that was the most important and most important thing for me to do, as well as the best way for me to grow. And without in the Wealth Without Wall Street community, I start off as a client. Now I'm one of the coaches that works with them, all because of that self-education. And I really want to emphasize too the importance of this. Peter, you know a little bit about this part of my life, but it led to my salvation as well as my financial independence. In 2022, I talk about this in one of the books I've co-authored. It's a number one bestseller on Amazon, which is kind of cool. But
Nice. What? Don't skip that because that's important. So what's the title? It is on Amazon. So what's the
yep,
title?
The first one is it's called um, the transformational journey. It's over here in my backdrop, and the second one is lessons from thought leaders. Happy
Do you have
to
it? Can you pull it up? I
Yeah.
mean, this.
So I have the first one.
I
This
mean,
is where this story originates from, the transformational journey.
okay,
And I'm happy to send any of your listeners a digital copy for free. So happy to do
awesome.
that. But in that book particularly, I talk about in 2022, my wife and I went on a special operations marriage retreat. It's only for special operations couples, and they had a beautiful whole ordeal, roughly 10 days in beautiful Montana, where it's all expenses paid. You're doing exciting things with your spouse. You're spending just quality time together, which we didn't really get a lot of in my career.
Yeah,
Um,
Ben, and that's something I wanted to note. So,
yeah,
because I think that's important context. Why do special operators need a retreat like that?
yeah. I can't speak for everyone, but out of my nearly 25-year career, I spent 23 of those in all special operations. Just to give a little bit of context there, there's no hard, fast statistics or data on this, but my experience would say that usually the life of a special operations person is only about 8 years in that community, especially
Mm,
Army special operations. It's a rough career in the sense of like it's a lot of gone time, deployments, training trips, schools. You're gone a lot, and so when you are gone a lot of the responsibility of the household with a family falls on the spouse. My wife basically single mom raised our kids through a couple decades, and she's incredible. And so that's why they host these things. Not that to downsize any other service members' service or what they have going on. Just I think in the global war of terrorism, the reliance on special operations was pretty heavy. So a lot of gone time, and this was an opportunity for us to have just husband and wife alone time.
right.
Won't bore you with all the details, but long story short, my wife and I, through a series of events, the team was going up to the top of a mountain, riding ATVs to go have a picnic lunch at the top of the mountain. My wife and I didn't make it to that. Our
Mm,
ATV went off the side of a mountain, and I was driving. She was on the backside, and I don't think I have to explain it too much that there was a lot of guilt, depression, anxiety around me taking responsibility for doing that kind of damage to our bodies. I live in Virginia currently. This retreat was in Montana, across
mm.
the country. That accident, we got airlifted out of the area from Montana, got hospitalized in Idaho for 3 weeks. So before we were released from care, we had been away from our kids and our dogs and all of the normal activities for over a month.
Mm.
The, there was a lot of terrible things and sad things that happened there. I'll save it for the people to read my story. But long story
Sure.
short, two really deep things that happened out of that. First, I mentioned earlier my salvation. It took a little bit of time to get to there, but when I finally realized that I couldn't be forgiven by anybody else except the Lord, that's where that came into play. So
Mhm.
that was the catalyst that brought me to my faith in my 40s. But nonetheless, pretty amazing. And then the second part
Mhm.
was while I was in the hospital, barely able to eat or use the bathroom by myself or any of that stuff. It's a really humbling experience when you're that beat up. My land business, what I primarily invest in, was still working even though I was hospitalized. Can you imagine, Peter? Like,
Ah,
for especially our W-2 folks that are listening in today, if you're not working, you're not earning. And so how does that actually, affect all the things that you worked hard to build up? My
right.
my team in my land investing business, they were still working even though I was hospitalized. Money was still coming in, and that just solidified the fact that investing is crucial to have that mailbox money, as we like to say. So I said a
Yeah,
lot
and
of
that
things. I'll pause there, sir.
no, that's good. That actually got to the second question that I had, which was, what are the consequences of not taking control? And I
Mm,
think one of the things I love about that story is you have really a truly tragic situation on so many levels. I mean, near death, literally a near death experience, which is in context just fascinating in a terrible way, but in a shocking way as well. I mean, you're a special operator, and you've seen the worst of the worst in war. You've been involved in some things that most people wouldn't be able to even process, and yet this story in the midst of that is I just think the contrast there, given the context of your life, is truly amazing. And moreover, I love the fact that we have a success story out of it, right? So such a tragic thing, but so many people, like, they're in the opposite situation, right? What happened to them, what happened to you happens to them, and they're having to learn the hard way that, man, I wished I'd have had mailbox money. And so I think having that relief and still knowing you're vulnerable, and even more so, like, I know we've talked about this before, but in this context, I haven't really appreciated the gravity of being able to have that season where you're coming to the Lord, because there's really, even in the midst of having all of that tragedy, yet still having the security of the finances, you knew that there was something eternal and even bigger and more important, and that is a relationship with the Lord. And knowing you're a sinner who can't solve the ledger that we need to as people. We're all going to be held accountable, and I'd rather have Jesus' blood in there than uh, my own record.
That's right.
So
One of my early mentors in my faith, he was very patient with me. I told him that, man, I did so well believing in myself and trusting in myself. And, like I mentioned earlier, like I had not a normal childhood. I had
sure.
to figure out a lot of things early on, for a lot of reasons that are all my fault. Uh, I put my faith in myself. And
Yeah.
what I told this mentor was like, I put my faith into myself, and I did really good for a long time until, the accident. And then I just felt so helpless. And he just kind of smiled and nodded at me and said, yeah, it sounds like you had a pretty good track record. I was like, yeah, I did. He's like, but he has a perfect track record. And that just resonated with me. Like, yeah, noted, noted.
I, I love that. I love that. That's so true. And, I would say, it's interesting because we have this conversation, and I think back about, we had this thing called Exchange City that was in elementary school. They took us out of school. We did a field trip. I think we did a couple of them, and it was basically you go in and learn commerce. You
Wow.
you went into this city that they had set up in a not a barn, but like a convention center or something, and we had to prepare for it, and businesses and all this. So I did learn some of those basics, but I wish they could have done
Mm.
more. That was awesome, but there was like a whole nother level, and I don't mean that critically. I think if more people even had the Exchange City thing going in the school system, that would be great. I do find it interesting when we're young. I had a lawn mowing business too. Now I didn't have to
Nice.
work as hard as you. My dad bought me a riding lawnmower. We still argue about whether or not that was actually a good decision, but the business was him buying me the riding mower. I should have earned that, but anyway. We both pretty much agree on that today, but anyway, I say all that to say I find it interesting. As much as the toil and the difficulty that we have because we don't know. I think that there's an argument to be made, or what do you think? I mean, is there an argument to be made that having those the lack of education, but having the freedom to go do those things and start small businesses is one of the great things about being an American and having these opportunities? I mean, I don't see a lot of this in foreign countries.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I don't have a lot of patience for victim mindsets. I think there's so many stories and so many people out there that just they pick up with whatever they have and they go execute. They they don't accept the current condition they're in.
Yeah.
Something in them ignites. Maybe it's faith. Maybe it's learning something or aspiring to another thing, and they just take action. I think I can personally speak to some of our coaching, or a lot of people that we work with in our coaching business and Wealth Without Wall Street. They just have never been shown any of this to what you say. And a lot of folks have never traveled to see how other nations are. And I can tell you from experience, um, we have the right to speech, in this country, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing all in itself. Now, pair that with the ability to go make whatever you want out of yourself. That is not that is not something to be taken lightly. I mean, we saw the fall of Afghanistan in
Hmm.
the previous administration, and all of the women's rights that had been worked so hard and so many people bled for basically vanished overnight.
Yep.
That's just a recent example I can think of. And so I just want to, tell your viewers, whether it's through investing in passive income or starting your own business, like you are you are capable of doing that. And I'm just a small example of that. And something I tell all my coaching clients frequently is that if you can learn from my failures, I want you to. I paid full retail for everything I got going on, and I definitely want you to pay discounted retail. If not, just learn from it and not never even have to take the same steps I took.
Right.
Shortcut your learning by putting yourself around other experts.
Should have had that. We'll be able to cut that out. Fortunately, hang on one second. Sorry about that, dude.
All good.
Uh, let's go to do not disturb. All right. Anyway, no, that's great. I agree, and I think my travels to Europe are an example of a lot of that, where I see a lot of folks in Europe. There's not even you can't even see it in their faces. Like
Mm.
the opportunity is not there, and they just view the world very differently because it's highly socialized and communal, and you're only made for you know and by the way, that's not to say that jobs are bad. I mean, I'm good at certain things and I shouldn't do other things. Just because I'm capable doesn't mean that I should do it. I, because I'm a follower of Christ, my first stop is, Lord, is this something you want me doing for your
Mm.
kingdom?
Yeah.
So, which is one of the things that sort of back to you in this community. I mean, I know that you're working through that journey yourself. Talk to me about what drew you to the IBC concept. I mean, there's a little bit story in the Wealth Without Wall Street, but what drew you to the IBC concept, and kind of tell us what it is, right? I mean, some people know, maybe some people listening will know, but let's hear your definition of what drew you to it and what's your definition of it.
Yeah. So IBC, the infinite banking concept, born and raised out of the mind of Nelson Nash, and his story truly originates from the necessity to take over his own banking system. He had extraordinary debt and was trying to figure out a way out of that. And out of that, he figured out through specifically designed whole life insurance policies that he could take control of his banking system. That's essentially what's happening at Wealth Without Wall Street. Part of it is learning, educating, and then developing people's individual banking systems, not just for today, but generally for generational wealth.
But why do I need a banking system? Like, I got a bank. What's wrong with my bank? Like,
That's
I mean,
cool
I
until you
get it.
don't.
What's that?
It's cool that you have a bank until you don't. Until it fails, someone makes a poor decision, your money's gone. That's where we're really trying to get around with passive income and IBC is taking control. You mentioned it earlier, taking control of your finances, not having what we would refer to as lazy money, where I don't even know how it's getting invested with my wealth manager, perhaps, or if it's sitting at the bank. There's in the United States what we refer to as the fractional banking system, where for every dollar I can put in, the bank can take it and invest it 10 different ways. Well, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I take my dollar
That's
and
it
invest
right
it 10
there.
different ways?
Yep, that's it right there. That makes sense. That's what kind of drew me
Hmm.
into it is the bank takes my money, they pay me virtually nothing, and they go out and take my money, invest it, and make
That's right.
literally 10x on that money in short periods of time if they're really good at what they do. I mean, it's an interesting. So I get it. That
It's super
anyway, that's
interesting.
awesome. Yeah.
And I mean, I would challenge anybody that's curious, look at the balance sheets of banks. They have whole life insurance on their balance sheets. So yeah, I again through self-education, I mean, even as a young kid, early teens, I was looking at Franklin Templeton prospectuses or whatever, trying to figure out how to make my dollar worth more and how to make my money work for me. And that turned into, again, going to live events. Although I don't prefer to go to those, it was getting out of the comfort zone and the necessity to grow my passive income and my banking system over my own personal comfort zone it was crucial in that time frame. And so self-education, surrounding myself with people that are doing what I aspire to do, which goes both ways, right? I'm sure you,
Right.
Peter, have been in places where you thought this is something you wanted to do or an idea that made sense, and then you get around people doing it and you're like, wow, this really isn't for me. Um, that's something we talk about with our community all the time, your investor DNA, like what actually applies
Yeah.
to you, what makes sense and what you should focus on versus again, learning from my experiences of things I should not have gotten into, business deals I probably shouldn't have invested in or partnered with. And then what really is my God-given skills that I should focus on. So,
That's really interesting. You talked about investor DNA. I mean, there's application to that. I mean, we talk about fit, right?
right.
So what is can you maybe expand a little bit on the investor DNA analysis? I've gone through that as
Yeah.
well, just with Russ and you, and just trying to figure out, where do I fit into this? I mean, we're working on, we actually, the Snell Family Summit is this Saturday, so day
Awesome.
after tomorrow. By the time this posts, we probably will already have had it, but I pulled that concept out of the community that I have with you guys. But one of the things that really spoke to me personally was, man, just because it's an investment doesn't mean it's a fit. Like even if it's got great returns, that doesn't mean I'm the right profile for it. Even at like Petrovibe, we're not a fit for a lot of people for a variety of reasons. We are for others, and so it's interesting to see um, our partners, who they are as people.
hmm
There's a lot of like-mindedness, and we're very intentional about that. Sometimes it makes it hard to raise money, but the bottom line is it's better to not have someone in that isn't a fit. And so than it is to get that extra capital in. It just doesn't do you any good because it creates more, I would say, anchors and headwinds than it does help. And so not all capital is created equally.
That's true.
Back to that. So walk me through a little bit more on the investor DNA. I think that's really critical for anyone listening, like making sure you get the right fit. What does that look like from your perspective?
That's so perfect. I love that you use the word fit in my whole special operations career. Um, Fit is incredibly important because really what we're talking about is trust.
Yeah.
When we're talking about fit, we're talking about trust. It's just we in the community of special operations move at the speed of trust. If you've had a shared experience, if you've been through the same hiring selection process I have been, we can, the trust is already established, the baseline at least, and now we
Right.
just work on that team. If you can't be trusted, it's not a good fit. And so, very similar. That's how I take my investing careers. That same type of relationship. The investor DNA that you refer to is based off the disc profile. I'm sure many of your folks have seen that at least or heard of it. It's not so different. It's just with a focus through the lens of investing. And so the very short assessment talks about or guides you through learning more about yourself. And in our community, when we coach people, we talk about like how to break that down a little bit more for yourself, and then uh, you know, non-standard, however we want to define um, non-standard investments, whether it's real estate or it's oil
Alternatives.
and gas
Yeah.
or all of the things that are available out there, what really fits what we refer to as your buy box. Like what is unique to you and what will work for you. Yeah, Peter, every time I chase dollars, an investment that sounds like it's got a high return of
Yeah.
investment or a return, high return on investment, or is going to net me a lot of money in 5 years, whatever, it always blows up in my face. If I
Sure.
had the investor DNA and understood my buy box years ago, I'd be a lot better off. I'd be talking at an island that I own somewhere in the Caribbean, probably. I don't know. Uh, but the truth is, so many of us try to force something to work, whether it's in investing or maybe even in our personal lives. We try to force things to happen First, we need to come to it in prayer, and then second, we need to align with what our God-given talents and skills are, and it is so much more enjoyable that way. Even if it's not the high return you're hoping to get. I have an investment in a note fund. For anybody not
Mhm.
familiar, notes are just pieces of paper that say you have a claim to something. And I'm not talking about that movie Dumb and Dumber when you have the sticky note for the red Lamborghini. That's not a good note whatsoever.
I don't understand. I thought that was perfect. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're gonna
they
want to
had
hold
a
on to
whole
that one.
briefcase full of IOUs.
Exactly. That's not a great note. But long story short, that note investment, it's not super sexy. I have the type of personality wants to go fast, doesn't really pay attention to details, and just is going to go running and blazing at things. That note portfolio is boring, doesn't really do much. I don't have any influence over it, but it's constant and it's only giving me 8% a year, but that 8% comes to me every month like clockwork, and I don't have to think about it or do anything for it. It truly is mailbox money. So, having that and knowing that my personality needs to have that stability is critical.
That's awesome. That's so good. I think that's really good. Um, Shifting sort of back to not sort of let's shift back to IBC.
Mm,
If talk to me about how someone like just the basics. Like I'm interested in IBC. What are the steps that I would take? I mean, it could be with Ben, it could be with anybody, but just educate us on how I could get started in IBCs. I'm already started. Like
yeah.
I'm not where I want to be, but and you and I have talked about this, but I love the strategy that has the vision that has been created by Russ and Joey, and then I look at getting started as really just an important thing because so much we talk about principles and concepts and the warm and fuzzies, but I call them principles and practicals.
Mhm.
So on the practicals, if I don't, maybe I'm already started and I don't know it. But help me understand what's the first few steps I can take, just baby steps to get going.
First thing is tune into our podcast, Wealth Without Wall Street, right? Like
Right
we
on.
we talk a lot about this, but I can't emphasize it enough. Self-educate. Um, Learn about these things, and we have a YouTube channel, and even if it's not our company, it's a different company, it's totally okay. But your guests are welcome to reach out to me, Ben at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, and we can talk about it. But from the
Awesome.
practical side, essentially what you're doing is you're creating your own banking system through the cash value of whole life insurance. And what does that actually mean? Basically, that means instead of going to name whatever bank or you know credit union or whatever, and I'm trying to get a loan, and that that institution's asking me 10,000 questions. Sign here, sign there. Nope, we're
And you
going to
already have
restrict your
money in their institution.
right. Right. You already quote unquote, or you've already entrusted them with some of your finances, but they're treating you like I don't know, you're taking a, a human's life and to your home, and you're gonna you're gonna be now the proud parent of this baby. It's just so much paperwork. It's so much time. It's so frustrating, and they put parameters on your loan. So maybe I do get apply for a loan and I get it, but they're going to tell me, they're going to dictate everything from the amounts that I'm allowed to have to the payments I have to pay to the interest that they're going to receive. Also I can do whatever I'm trying to accomplish in my life. Whereas if I have my whole life insurance policy and I'm banking on myself, I take the cash value, and the insurance company is going to ask me two things. One is how much do you want and where do you want it sent to? I do this all the time with my business. I lend my business from my insurance policies money and then create the terms of the agreement, whether that's, I pay my business back this amount or that amount, the length of it. And this is not any kind of tax advice or whatsoever. I'm no professional in that sense. But the beauty is that maybe there's a hard time. Somebody passes away, unfortunately, something happens. If you miss a payment back to your own bank, nobody's repossessing your house
Mm.
or your
Yeah.
car or anything like that. You make the decision of how to do that. Now, we want to be a good banker. We don't want to just avoid repayment into the cash value of that policy. But the opportunities now are more prevalent because you have you have access to cash essentially. Um, from a macroeconomic perspective, if we're looking at the current conditions, it's probably likely that we're going to have a correction, and access to cash is going to be very, very important for folks, especially if you want to continue to invest or have your rainy day fund or your emergency fund or whatever the case may be. That's really, truly the beauty of the infinite banking concept is banking on yourself. There's 10,000 other neat things about it. For instance, creditors can't attack it.
Right.
It does not get taxed when
Right.
you pass along or graduate to heaven, as we like to say. Um, uh, there, there's no debt to income ratio that this shows up in. Like either if you're applying for a credit card, they don't see that you have a loan with the insurance company because it's a contract.
Yep.
It's not actually a financial exchange of money like banks are going to expect you to do. Did that answer your question, Peter?
Yeah. I mean, so I got multiple things going on in my mind. One is I personally taken advantage of this. So twice I invest regularly. I
Mm.
have and by the way, I'm taking pre-tax or post tax dollars. So dollars that have been taxed, they go into the system, but then they create, they earn through the investment vehicle, the life insurance being the I don't know, the cap on it, the front, the entry, the door, the life insurance policies, the door is how I look at it. Then my money is actually earning money. Well, I've needed to take loans out twice and have done that and paid it back. It's been a great system for me because there was no tax implication, which I loved. It was all protected inside of this. So once my dollars went in there, I was now in this sort of the freedom of mind that it gave me to operate. And I had to experience it to really appreciate it. But
Right.
now that I have, oh my gosh. And both those times I had kind of emergency business investments that I was doing specifically in my primary work, which I love. I love to work. I love my job. So, but I needed that money. And so experiencing the loan and then the payback and knowing that, hey, look, and by the way, I didn't have the pressure. Nobody was calling me saying, "Where's your money? Why aren't you paying the interest?" I paid it when I was able, and
Right.
I had already mentally decided, look, I'm committed to this model, so this is how it's going to work, and that was enough. The framework in which I can't predict what's going on in the rest of my business, so I wouldn't know. So that freedom was worth so much. Now I don't have a whole life policy, so my question was going to be if I call Ben, are you going to be able to give me some options? Not that whole life was good or bad. It depends on each person.
Mm.
I think I have a variable life policy. Mutual funds on the back.
Mm.
It was pretty simple. I don't remember why I did that one. I'm not an expert. So can you help us understand if I call Ben or email you and I want to get involved in this, what are like, so we have obviously listen to the podcast, but then what?
Well, the cool
Like,
thing is, I'm not an expert in IBC at all, even though I have practiced it for 6 years or so.
more than an expert than most would say, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is you're just reaching out to me to have a conversation. We have coaches that do that are experts in this that set up these specifically designed policies for folks. I'm
Yep.
more on the implementation side. So at Wealth Without Wall Street, my colleague and I, Jonathan Day, you've interviewed him. We once people have policies, once people are interested in passive income, that's where we help them to grow that. So
Awesome.
that is my bread and butter is helping people come up with the strategy and vision of what they're trying to accomplish. We even go out to like 100-year plan, if
Love
that
it.
blows anybody's mind. And then we back plan from there of like what you're trying to accomplish. Uh, Instilling that first or multiple streams of passive income so that you have a decision to make. If you love working your W-2, fantastic. If you don't, well, maybe you work yourself out of a job by having, Russ always talks about, so you can escape the 9 to 5, you got to work the 5 to 9, whether that's in the morning or in the evening.
Yep.
And that's really what we're trying to accomplish for what Jonathan and I do. So, it's pretty risk-free for any of your folks that are interested. I'm just going to have a conversation and help guide you the best way I possibly can. Whether it's our right room or somebody else's right room, you got to
Sure.
put yourself in the right next room to get that experience, knowledge, or what have you, to take action.
Yeah,
So many people are lost in analysis paralysis. We
no,
need
I
to take the
love
next
that.
step forward.
I love that. Sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk you there at the end, but I think that's awesome because it is about the strategy and having the I like the 100-year plan too. That's about legacy, by the way. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
52, so there's no 100 years in front of me for me, but my kids and my grandkids
Right.
potentially, unless Jesus comes back sooner. And he's already got the ultimate legacy plan. For those of you who
Truth.
don't know me well enough, maybe this is your first thing, but a disciple of Jesus, like Ben, it is there's an eternal kingdom through Christ that you can be part of that goes well beyond financial riches and anything that's good on this earth. It's the ultimate in glory and honor and love. And it's available to anybody who wants to accept the gospel message, which is all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, but the free gift of eternal life through Christ Jesus is ours if we'll just accept it. So we got to repent and accept, and it's awesome. It's where we live. But anyway, there's your gospel message, and I think it's good coming back to your the idea around strategy and thinking through a way to get to your goals. I think there's such a high need for that with a little bit of relief because it's not about product. Product is just a tool, but if you don't know how to use the tool, it doesn't really matter. And I really love that.
Yeah, there's such a big
So,
difference between some of the earlier wealthy families in America, the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts. If we take just those two families, for instance, the Rockefellers educated. They they ensured that wealth was passed down, not just the money, but the education along with it, so that they knew how to invest. They knew how to grow that money, to have money work for them. And that was all part of the legacy that was passed down. The Vanderbilts, I mean, there's still legacy in the sense of like Vanderbilt University, the Biltmore Estate, whatever, but there's no more millionaires. All of the financial resources that were a part of that very successful family have perished because they didn't take the time um,
wow.
to pass that knowledge down and to grow each other. The fortune got dissected, and then nothing's left. So
I did not know that.
I would
That's a great
challenge anybody.
contrast.
I'm sorry.
That's a great contrast,
Yeah.
actually. I did not know
Challenge
that.
your people that are listening. Do you want to have your family be Rockefellers or Vanderbilts? The decision's up to you. There's no judgment on this end, but we're supposed to be good stewards of everything that the Lord's provided for us. So how can I best do that? And try to make the best of the time that we have on this planet.
I love it. Ben, man, this has been amazing. I mean, I always say that I don't have high expectations from the standpoint of new learnings. I got to quit saying that because every time I come into one of these, and you are no exception, I get new stuff, new inspiration, uh, real support for some of the things I've decided to do. And, that's the other thing. I go to sleep, I wake up the next day, I waffle a little bit, right? And so, I mean, I don't waffle in my faith in the Lord. That's awesome. Praise him for that. And so I can always turn back to him. But on a practice, again, it comes to principles and practicals. This has been great on both sides. So I just appreciate you being here. Real quick to kind of close this up before we do the final send off, give us your contact information and make sure people can reach out and connect with you if they so choose.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I'm going to give you two just because I think that I want to segment them out. If you're
Okay.
interested in anything IBC, passive income, wealth without Wall Street, Ben at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. It's a tongue twister. I'm sorry. But if you're interested in, PDF copies of the books that I'm co-authored in, or you just want to talk about anything else, I'm active on LinkedIn, and then also info@benbuzek.com. I'm happy to send over those free to your audience. So thanks, Peter. I
Awesome.
really appreciate it today.
Yeah, man, Ben, appreciate you. If you're interested, Petrovibe, also the sponsor of this particular show. So petrovibe.com. Petrovibe 1 is actually an open project. We are in the middle of fundraising for that project. If you're an accredited investor and you have some interest in diversifying your portfolio, we actually go through a fit process. It's the partner criteria is what we call it. And it's a discussion, an interactive part of the conversation where we walk through that to make sure that it is a fit. And we talked about that earlier in today's podcast. And I would say that that's one thing I think if you're not sure if that's a good fit for you, but you're interested in a 45% annualized forecasted return, which I think most of us are. But if you think that's good and you like a risk reward that's a little more intense, this may be something you could get with. There's also a fantastic tax deduction for W-2 and cap gains that you cannot get anywhere else. It's a deduction you could take against active income. So if any of that sparks your interest, visit us at petrovibe.com. You can check out the One Project with the button in the right-hand corner of the menu at the top. So again, Peter Snell, your host here at the Fireside Chat. Thanks again to Ben for being here today. Man, it was awesome. Y'all take care.